Imagine this. You wake up one morning, a few months after your 66th birthday. The sun filters softly through the curtains. You sit up slowly, a little stiffness in your back, your knees hesitant to move. There's a dull ache in your fingers as you reach for your glasses. You walk to the kitchen, same as you always do, and pour a hot cup of coffee. The routine hasn't changed in decades, but today your hand trembles slightly. Your mind feels foggy, like someone forgot to turn on the lights in the room behind your eyes. And for a split second you wonder, is this the beginning of the end? What if I told you it doesn't have to be? What if I told you the difference between barely surviving your senior years and thriving well into your 90s, full of clarity, strength, and independence, could come down to just 5 minutes each morning? Not hours, not strict diets or exhausting workouts. Just 5 scientifically designed minutes to reset your aging body. According to a growing number of longevity experts, from institutions like the Harvard Longevity Institute and the National Institute on Aging, what seniors do in the first 5 minutes after waking may be one of the most powerful predictors of not just how long they live, but how well they live. It's a protocol so effective, some are calling it the biological time rewind. And yet, 99% of seniors aren't doing it, so why haven't we heard about it before? Let me introduce you to someone, Eugene Foster, a 69-year-old retired architect from Arizona. 2 years ago, Eugene's life had shrunk into something he barely recognized. His energy disappeared by noon. His knees ached constantly. He used to design buildings. Now, even standing up from his chair felt like a blueprint he couldn't solve. His doctor warned him that his heart was under strain, that he needed to slow down. But slowing down wasn't what Eugene wanted. What he wanted was to live long enough and well enough to dance at his granddaughter's wedding. That's when his neighbor, a soft-spoken, retired cardiac surgeon named Carl Peterson, handed him a handwritten routine and said, "Start your mornings differently. Give your body the signal it's waiting for, and watch what happens." Eugene had nothing to lose, and within weeks, everything began to change. His mental fog cleared, his energy spiked, and most importantly, 6 months later, his doctor couldn't believe the data. His blood pressure was down, his heart was working less, his arterial stiffness, a key sign of aging, had reversed by 12%. Eugene says it felt like he'd been handed a second chance, all because he changed the first 5 minutes of his day. This isn't magic, it's medicine. And it begins with the first critical habit, the hydration protocol. After sleeping for 7 to 8 hours, your body wakes up in a state not of rest, but of depletion. Most people don't realize this, but during the night, you lose nearly a pint of water through breath and perspiration. That's a full bottle of water evaporated from your body without you ever noticing. Dr. Amanda Lewis, a senior health researcher at the Cleveland Longevity Institute, explains that when seniors wake up dehydrated, their blood thickens, causing a spike in cardiovascular strain. In fact, over 60% of morning strokes and heart attacks occur between 6 a.m. and 11 a.m., the exact window when dehydration peaks. That's why the first liquid you put into your body may determine whether it fights disease or collapses under it. Consider Lucille Manning, a 74-year-old retired piano teacher from Vermont. She began every morning with coffee, like so many do, but she also started experiencing dizziness, heart palpitations, and panic-like symptoms shortly after waking. Her doctor traced the issue to chronic morning dehydration. When Lucille switched to a specific hydration ritual, one year about to learn, her symptoms faded in 17 days. Her cardiovascular strain dropped, her resting heart rate fell by 11 beats per minute, and most importantly, her mornings no longer began with fear, but with calm. So what exactly did she do? Here's the protocol. Before you even sit up in bed, before your feet hit the floor, reach for a 16-ounce glass of room temperature water. Not cold, not warm, room temperature. Then squeeze in 1/4 of a lemon and drink all of it within the first 60 seconds of waking. This does 3 things. First, it restores lost fluids before your heart has to work overtime to pump thicker blood. Second, the room temperature helps gently dilate your blood vessels, improving circulation to your brain and muscles without the shock of cold constriction. And third, the lemon adds electrolytes and vitamin C, which improve arterial flexibility and cellular hydration. You'll feel the difference, often within days. Your digestion will improve, your energy will rise faster, and most of all, your heart and brain will stop waking up in a state of emergency. Think about that. 1 minute, 1 glass, 1 powerful reset. And yet most seniors start their day with nothing but coffee, a dehydrating diuretic that makes everything worse. Ask yourself, can you commit to that tomorrow morning? Will you choose prevention over panic? And if you do, what's next? Let's talk about your brain's blood flow and how to protect it in the most vulnerable minute of your day. Scientists call it the circulation reset. When we sleep, blood pools in our lower extremities. Standing up causes a sudden redistribution. For a healthy young person, that's no big deal. But for a senior body with slower vascular response, it can mean dizziness, oxygen drops, even stroke. Her team found that a single 60 DACA movement sequence, done immediately after rising, increased cerebral blood flow by 43% for the rest of the day. She says this 1-minute ritual has more impact on brain function than most medications prescribed for aging cognition. That brings us to Walter Haynes, a 76-year-old former math teacher from Michigan. One morning he felt a slight slurring in his speech. He called 911. By the time the EMTs arrived, the symptoms had passed. But the scans revealed something chilling: constricted blood vessels feeding the brain. His neurologist told him that while medication could help, what he really needed was a ritual, a movement pattern proven to restore blood flow each morning. Walter began practicing it daily, and within 3 months, cerebral scans had normalized. His balance improved, his memory sharpened, and his neurologist said he'd reversed the clock on his brain by 10 years. So what is this 60-second sequence? Upon standing, place your feet shoulder-width apart. Raise your arms overhead while inhaling deeply. Lower them slowly while exhaling. Rotate your shoulders backward 5 times, then forward 5 times. Finally, rise up onto your toes and lower back down 10 times. This simple pattern sends blood upward to your brain, downward to your extremities, and throughout your organ. It's not yoga. It's not cardio. It's neurovascular hygiene for the elderly. And it may be the easiest thing you do all day. Now, I know what some of you might be wondering. Could it really be this simple? Could 2 habits, drinking water and light movement, truly add years to your life? That's the question we'll explore next, diving into the muscle-serving power of early morning protein and the 90-second mobility ritual that helped one woman walk pain-free for the first time in a decade. But for now, I want you to sit with this thought. If your body wakes up in a crisis each day, how can it ever truly heal? Inspiration comes not from doing everything, but from doing the right things consistently. These 2 morning shifts may seem small, but together they could mean the difference between gradual decline and powerful renewal. Between fading independence and decades more of living boldly, thinking clearly, and standing tall in your own story. Elderly reflections teach us one core truth. It's not how long we live that defines us, but how well we live. And the story of how well often begins at sunrise. Will you rewrite your mornings? Will you choose vitality over habit? The real transformation begins in the next phase. Let's start with a question. What if you woke up one morning and realized you couldn't carry your own groceries anymore? What if stairs felt like mountains, your grip too weak to open a jar, your legs trembling with every step? This isn't some rare or dramatic health collapse. It's a silent epidemic facing millions of seniors worldwide. Age muscle loss, also known as sarcopenia. And the cruel part is, it doesn't arrive with pain or warning. It slips in slowly, day by day, while we go on thinking, I'm just getting older. But what if I told you that much of this muscle loss can be prevented? Not with a gym membership or supplements, but by what you do within the first hour of waking. In fact, according to the National Institute on Aging, what you eat and when you eat it, first thing in the morning, could have more impact on your physical strength and longevity than everything else you eat the rest of the day combined. Take a moment and picture Margaret Brooks, a 71-year-old widow and former school librarian from Minnesota. Margaret spent her entire life taking care of others. Her husband, her students, her 2 sons, and eventually her grandchildren. But over the last few years, she began to notice a quiet deterioration. Tasks that were once effortless, standing from a chair, walking to the mailbox, lifting a bag of flour, became difficult. Her arms thinned, her thighs softened, and she began to rely on furniture to balance herself when she moved around the house. Her doctor told her she was in the early stages of frailty syndrome, and that her lean muscle mass was dangerously low. That's when a physical therapist suggested something she had never considered before. Consume 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein within 30 minutes of waking up. Margaret was surprised. She'd always thought breakfast should be light, a banana, some toast, maybe oatmeal. But what she didn't know, and what most seniors don't know, is that after age 65, the body enters a catabolic state between the hours of 3 a.m. and 8 a.m., meaning it literally starts breaking down muscle tissue for energy. That's why older adults often feel stiff, sore, and weak in the morning. It's not just sleep inertia. It's biological muscle loss happening in real time. Dr. Rebecca Fleming, a nutrition gerontologist who specializes in senior metabolism, explains it this way. If you delay protein intake until mid-morning or lunch, your body has already burned through muscle reserves. But when you front-load protein within that first 30-minute window after waking, it sends a message: preserve and rebuild. And that's exactly what happened for Margaret. She began drinking a simple whey protein shake every morning. Within half an hour of finishing her hydration routine, the shake contained 28 grams of protein, some healthy fats, and a little collagen for joint support. Within 6 weeks, her energy improved. Within 3 months, her posture changed, and by month 6, her muscle mass had increased by over 9%. According to her follow-up scans, Margaret was no longer afraid to carry her own groceries. Her hands stopped trembling when she cut vegetables. And one afternoon, without even thinking, she lifted her grandson into her lap, something she hadn't done in nearly 2 years. So what can you do starting tomorrow? Once you've completed your hydration protocol and your circulation reset, set a timer. Within 30 minutes of waking, you need to consume 25 to 30 grams of digestible protein. If you eat eggs, 4 to 5 egg whites with 1 whole egg will do the trick. Greek yogurt with a scoop of protein powder works too. If you're vegetarian, go with a plant-based protein shake made from pea, rice, or hemp. 1 cup of cottage cheese also works. This is not about changing your entire diet. It's about shifting your timing to match your biology. And once you do that consistently, you begin to protect your strength. Not just your muscles, but the independence and identity tied to them. Because here's the truth. Muscle isn't vanity. It's not about looking younger. It's about staying upright, mobile, and in control of your life. Seniors who maintain muscle into their 70s and 80s are less likely to fall, more resistant to infection, and significantly more likely to live independently. That is what we mean by senior motivation. That is why life lessons from the elderly always center around the theme of move or lose. It's wisdom earned, not taught. But there's another trap waiting right after you stand up. A trap that affects nearly every person over 65, morning joint stiffness. You know the feeling. You take your first few steps out of bed and your ankles resist. Your knees creak, your back won't fully straighten, and you wonder if this is just how it's going to be from now on. But what if it isn't? What if the stiffness isn't a permanent sentence, but a reversible condition caused by a biological mechanism we can influence in just 90 seconds? Enter the mobility sequence, a targeted routine developed by orthopedic researchers at the Mayo Clinic. Here's what they discovered. Overnight, your body's synovial fluid, the lubricant in your joints, becomes thicker due to lack of movement. This creates friction and micro damage the moment you begin moving. Over time, this friction leads to inflammation, cartilage wear, and eventually chronic pain. But a short series of strategic movements can redistribute and warm the fluid, allowing your joints to move freely without trauma. It's not just good practice, it's essential prevention. Let me introduce you to Donna Harris, an 83-year-old retired florist from Tampa, Florida. Donna had reached a point where even getting dressed in the morning required 20 minutes of painful maneuvering. She relied on grabbers, elevated toilet seats, and eventually a part-time caregiver to help her through her day. But Donna wasn't ready to surrender her independence. She discovered the morning mobility sequence through a support group and committed to practicing it every day after her circulation reset. The entire routine took 90 seconds. That's it, and within 3 weeks, her stiffness reduced by over 70%. Within 3 months, she was walking without assistance. By month 6, she was playing tag in the backyard with her great-grandchildren. "I thought I was finished," she said, smiling through tears. "It turns out, I just needed to move differently." Duh. So what is this miracle routine? After completing your 60-second circulation reset, sit on the edge of your bed. Gently rotate each ankle 10 times in both directions. Then move your knees in soft circular patterns 10 times each way. Stand up and hold onto a wall or chair, and perform 5 side bends on each side. Finish by rolling your shoulders backward 10 times. That's no floor mats, no yoga straps, no stretching until you shake. Just a graceful waking up of your body's internal oil system. Done in less than 2 minutes. Yet the impact can be life-changing. Elderly reflections have shown us one great truth. The body wants to heal even when it hurts, even when it stiffens, even when the world tells you it's too late. It never is. When you treat the body with morning respect, it rewards you with daily resilience. And when you build that into your routine, You're not just moving more freely, you're moving into your future. But you might be asking, how does this all fit together? And what happens when I do all of these in sequence? That's exactly what we'll answer next, as we complete the loop and reveal the fifth and final morning ritual. An unexpected brain-boosting activity that neurologists say could help delay dementia by up to 2 decades. You'll also see how one 79-year-old man used the full 5-part protocol to restore his memory, rebuild his confidence, and give his family back the man they thought they were losing. Because ultimately, longevity is about more than years. It's about quality, clarity, strength, presence, and the ability to wake up and know, not guess, not hope, but know that you're still in command of your life. Let's begin with a scenario no one wants to face, yet too many do. You're 79 years old. You're standing in your kitchen, and for a full 15 seconds, you can't remember what you came in for. You stare at the refrigerator, trying to recall whether it was milk, or eggs, or maybe the orange juice. You walk away frustrated. Later that afternoon, your daughter reminds you of a conversation you had last week. You have no memory of it. You laugh it off, but inside something shifts. A chill of doubt settles in your chest. You wonder, is this how it starts? Is this the first crack in the glass? Cognitive decline doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It arrives subtly, like a slow dimming of the lights. And by the time it's visible, it often feels too late to stop. But that assumption is wrong. According to cutting-edge research from Stanford's Brain Longevity Center, the most critical window for brain activation is the first 30 minutes after waking. That's when your brain is most neuroplastic, most ready to rewire, regenerate, and protect itself. And what you do during those 30 minutes may determine whether your brain grows or fades. That brings us to the final piece of the 5-minute longevity puzzle, the mental clarity exercise. Dr. Hayes and his team discovered that a simple 60-second mental recall exercise could increase production of BDNF, brain-dry, quote-unquote, neurotrophic factor, a critical protein that supports neuron survival, synaptic strength, and memory retention. They found that seniors who perform this exercise gain maintained function equivalent to someone 15 to 20 years younger. Consider the case of Edward Lawson, a 79-year-old retired attorney from Chicago. Edward had always prided himself on his intellect. He could quote law cases from memory, recite poetry, and debate politics with elegance. But in recent years, things changed. He began repeating himself, forgetting names, losing words mid-sentence. His biggest fear, he consulted neurologists, took supplements, even joined memory workshops. But it wasn't until one physician gave him this simple morning exercise that things began to shift. The instructions were strange at first. Each morning, close your eyes and recall your previous day in reverse order. Start with dinner, then lunch, then breakfast. Rewind conversations. What did you wear? Who did you speak to? Edward resisted at first. It felt silly, but he committed. 1 minute a day. Within 2 months, something incredible happened. His recall improved, his sharpness returned, and during his next cognitive screening, his neurologist was stunned to see a 17% improvement across 4 core cognitive markers. It was as if his brain had stopped slipping and had started fighting back. Edward said something powerful. For the first time in years, I feel like I have my mind back. That is what this final step is about. Not memory games, not brain teasers, but the activation of dormant neural pathways that would otherwise decay with age. So here's how to do it. Sit comfortably after your mobility routine. Close your eyes. Take a breath. Now begin recalling your previous day in reverse. Start with what you did before bed, then what you did after dinner, who you spoke to, where you went, what you wore. Try to visualize these things clearly. Be specific. And if that becomes easy, challenge yourself further. Go back 2 days. Add more detail. Try to remember smells, sounds, and feelings. This reverse recall does 2 critical things. First, it forces your brain to form new connections instead of relying on habitual memory routes. Second, it boosts BDNF, which acts like fertilizer for your neurons. It's like strength training, but for your memory. 1 minute once a day, a lifetime of benefit. Now let's zoom out across 3 parts. We've unpacked 5 daily rituals that form the morning longevity protocol. A 5-minute sequence that could add not just years to your life, but life to your years. You now know about the hydration protocol that restores your cardiovascular system before it enters crisis mode. You've learned about the 60-second circulation reset that reboots blood flow to your brain. You understand the protein timing method that halts muscle loss in its tracks. You've seen how a 90-minute mobility sequence can protect your joints from chronic pain and degeneration. And you've discovered the brain-saving clarity ritual that could delay cognitive decline by a decade or more. But there's something more important than any of these habits individually. It's the synergy they create together. That's exactly what Harold, the retired engineer we met earlier, discovered. When Harold first began his journey, he was 68, tired, stiff, and full of fear about the road ahead. Now, at 70, he's thriving. His blood pressure is normal, his joint pain has decreased by 80%. His muscle mass is stable, and his latest cognitive tests match those of a 55-year-old. I used to wake up and feel old, he said. Now I wake up and feel capable. His transformation isn't rare, it's repeatable, and it begins with a decision. Will you keep starting your mornings on autopilot, or will you take 5 minutes to fight for your future? That's what this whole message has been about. Not fear, but power. You have more control than you've been told. More ability to shift your trajectory even in your late 60s, 70s, or 80s, because elderly wisdom isn't about accepting decline. It's about adapting with grace. The life lessons from the elderly don't say stop, they say pivot. And this protocol is your pivot point. So let's close with a final image. Picture yourself 20 years from now. You're on a bench at the edge of a lake. The sun is rising, your mind is clear, your body is strong, your grandchild is sitting beside you, asking questions, and you're answering, not with confusion or hesitation, but with stories, memories, laughter. You're there, present, capable, grateful. That future begins now. 5 minutes a day, 5 steps, 1 life. If you found this information valuable, if you believe in senior health, in elderly reflections, in empowering others with inspiration and real tools, then take a moment right now and click the like button. Share this with someone over 65 whom you love. You might just be handing them the gift of 2 extra decades of life well lived. And if you want more tools like this, more science-backed, soul-centered content, built for seniors and those who care for them, subscribe and turn on notifications. We're just getting started. You've worked hard your entire life. Now it's time to wake up and live the rest of it fully.